right, here we are. It Takes a Team, episode 4. I got Brendo in the house.
Hey, guys.
I'm fresh off a plane from Orlando. I just went on a what my family pretended or lied to me and told me was going to be a vacation, but it was 6 adults and 6 kids under 5 years old.
But that puts the ratio at 1-to-1, right?
You'd think so, but it was, dude, Disney World is a racket. It was nonstop. I don't know how kids get this energy, but up in the morning and they're just going the whole time. It was not a vacation. Like, I'm excited for the kids to go back to daycare, but it was cool seeing, like, you know, my 3-year-olds meet Mickey Mouse and stuff, you know, go on certain rides and him get excited. I brought him to the aquarium. He loved that. You know, he got to spend a lot of time with his cousins, go swimming and stuff. So, and he loves his grandparents. So it was cool seeing that part of it. But man, it was exhausting. I think I had my my 1-year-old Lawson. He was on one of those little backpacks, you know, like the Hangover movie. He was in the front of that probably 6 hours a day, walking around the parks. You know, we're doing like 6-8 miles of walking, and he's on that thing. It's 92 degrees and just humid. He's sweating, I'm sweating, and it was not pretty. But before we get into anything today for the show, I just want to, I know this is going to air next week, but tomorrow our boy Andre Sukumtoth is fighting tomorrow night at UFC 236. I know you guys won't hear this till after, but just know that we're thinking of you. And also big shouts out to Randy Costa making his UFC debut tomorrow night, one of the Lozon MMA prospect. He's 4-0, one of our good friends. So go get it for New England guys. Hopefully when you guys hear this on Tuesday, they'll go 2-0.
That'll be a good thing to hear.
I'm excited. And yeah, so just to kind of recap, like what's happened since, you know, we met with Andre is, you know, I know we had Calvin on a few episodes ago, and he was giving us crap about when's my next fight. You tell me.
He was itching.
Yeah, so he's got we just announced last week he's got a big fight. He's ranked number 15 at 145. He's going to fight the number 11 guy, Ricardo Lamas, June 8th in Chicago. We did get him a new 4-fight deal locked in. He's really happy with the numbers. I'm really happy with the numbers. I think, you know, it was a 5-month negotiation process, but I think it was, you know, it was well worth the wait. We have a really good fight. We have a really good plan in place. You know, now we're just staring down the barrel of a 7-week of hard training and then going out to Chicago and getting our hand raised. And, you know, we kind of glazed over this in the last couple weeks, but his teammate, Rob Font, he got a new contract as well. So he's got a new 4-fight deal, and then we're working on booking him a fight. So it's good that, you know, I think we're finally starting to get the guys booked, and we're planning out the summer. And then aside from that, so far we've got 3 of the guys that I manage at Top Game Management. 3 of those guys are booked on the Contender Series. We can't say who yet. I know some of it's starting to come out online and stuff. But yeah, so we got 3 guys booked to fight this summer on the Contender Series. So that's exciting.
Big times coming up.
I mean,
big times.
A lot of traveling.
Yeah. So Calvin's obviously got a big fight coming up. Anything you want to tell us about the game plan yet?
We're just not going to talk about the game plan here. But no, I mean, that's the idea. So now what the process is we've been watching a lot of video, and, you know, his coach, Greg Gabello, myself, and his jiu-jitsu coach, Carlos Neto, his main guy. You know, we all watch video. We get on the mat, we collaborate, and we put together a game plan for the fight, and then we put together how the whole camp's going to look, and then we just get on the mats and we execute. So that'll be a big part of our focus the next 7 weeks, is just preparing for that fight. Obviously, he's 3-1 in the UFC. He's got a new juicy deal, and he goes out and beats the number 11 kid, you know, in his hometown. You know, it's gonna change a lot of things, you know, especially if he does it in a dominating fashion. So I think it'll, you know, reinforce what we already know, which is, you know, Calvin Kattar is a contender in the featherweight division. I think it'll really kind of show that to the masses when he beats a name like Ricardo Lamas. Like, you know, we fought Renato Moicano when he was ranked number 11, and we lost the decision, but no one really knew who he was. Ricardo Lamas is a name, man. He's been around since, you know, the WEC days, and, you know, 36 years old. He's got over 20 fights in the UFC. Like, you know, it's roughly 20, something like that. And so I think it's a really big opportunity for him.
Excellent. That's in Chicago?
Chicago. So we'll work on booking flights and stuff soon. And I'm already thinking about deep dish. So if anybody knows any good pizza spots in Chicago, I'm sure there's plenty, but I want to know, like, the legit ones.
Yeah, just hit any corner and you're going to find one.
No, I want the legit ones.
No, they all are. They all are.
Have you ever been to Chicago?
Yeah.
I've been a couple times for when I was back in tech sales, and it was just cool how the river goes right through the city. But it'll be a good time of year to go too. June 8th won't be too hot yet, but it won't be cold.
Right. Yeah. I went there. Can you guess why I went there?
A fish concert.
It was a fish concert.
Brendo's seen the world because of fish. Is what all he's done. I'm excited about today's guest. We got Brock Larson, not to be confused with Brock Lesnar. We have the cool Brock.
Yes.
He's also from Minnesota. So me and Brock go way back in terms of like the amount that we've worked together. You know, we own a gym together in Minnesota, Start BJJ Minnesota. It's in St. Cloud. Me, him, and UFC fighter Tony Martin own that gym together. He's the head instructor there, and he had 14 fights under the Zuffa banner between WEC and UFC. He fought for a WEC title against Carlos Condit. Unfortunately, he lost. But then he also fought for ONE FC, and he fought for a title there. So he's one of the few fighters that have fought for titles in both promotions. And he's just got a wealth of knowledge. But aside from his actual credentials as an athlete, he's one of the most selfless guys I've ever met. You know, I model like a lot of the coaching that I do is based around the fact that he's kind of been like a mentor to me and been a good role model. You know, this guy's, like I said, 14 UFC fights, fought for a title, and here he is still helping amateurs cut weight 4 hours away or 5 hours away, and he doesn't blink an eye. You know, and I see some of these other coaches who, you know, maybe fought or didn't fight or whatever, and they're like, oh, where's that fight? I'm not going. You know, so it's just cool seeing that he's still got that hustle and that grind in him with, like, how much success he's had. But that's probably why he's had the success, just because he's the nicest guy. And you got to spend a week with him. I mean...
Yeah, he was great. The big thing the first thing that kind of hit me was he had been up pretty much. This is when we went to Kansas. He was up pretty much the same amount of time as us. I nearly died in the car because I was so tired, and he went right through the night and drove the whole time. That was insane.
He's like you said, he's the best wheelman.
Best wheelman in MMA.
And so we're gonna have him Skype in a minute here. He has a show in Minnesota that he's promoting. The weigh-ins are in like an hour. And so he's gonna get ready for that. But he was nice enough to join in and be willing to to speak with us a little bit about just his background as a coach and kind of his fighting. And then hopefully we can get him to kind of open up a little bit because he's kind of a guarded guy. But I think he's just got like a lot of like you say history that goes back into like the early, like you said, WEC. He's just so nice, but he's like too humble. You get this. Like when you hang out with him, you would never know he fought for like a UFC title. You would never know like he's one of the most talented coaches I've ever been around. Like I learn a lot of stuff from him, and that like I'll call him and ask about certain things. Like even with my guys, like hey, when we were in Kansas a couple of years ago, I still have a cut on my hand because me and him working on wall drills because I wanted to touch upon a few things, and he'll donate his time to anybody. I wouldn't be surprised. He's not the best with technology, so I wouldn't be surprised if it takes us a couple times to get him on the line, or if he's going to be doing it from his phone, so if he'll be like holding his phone, and so maybe visually it won't be the best, but whatever this guy says, you want to cling on to and appreciate because he's one of the OGs in MMA and one of the nicest guys that you could ever meet. So I'm excited about having him on here. Yeah,
he was super, super nice in Kansas. I felt like part of the family, and I just met the guy, for the second time. That day that we went. So he was awesome.
And he made us chocolate chip pancakes like 3 times.
Yes, he did.
So
3? Yeah, 3.
Thanks for that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'll see if we can get him on the line and then see how that goes. All right, I think Brock's ready for us. We got Brock Larson on the Skype device here, ready to talk to us. Say
how's it going, Brock?
Hey, it's going great, guys. Thanks for having me on. Excited to be a part of the show, man.
Hey, thanks for coming. I know Brock's actually promoting a show this weekend, so he's got weigh-ins in a little bit here, so we'll get him out of here. But, Brock, I mean, WEC vet, UFC vet, and ONE FC vet. I don't know if there's are there any other fighters that have done the trifecta like that?
Well, none of the good ones. I mean, there's some people that are not with, nearly as cool as I am that've done anything like that.
So, do you want to just give us a little bit of your background? I mean, obviously the highlights is you fought for the UFC, you fought for a WEC title, and you fought for a ONE FC title. But other than that, just maybe where you're from, a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, from Brendo, Minnesota, central Minnesota. Born and raised, and got a school here now. And wrestled here. Everything I've done pretty much in Minnesota, except for later on in my career, I went to a lot of different camps and trained. But otherwise, I'm a Minnesota boy.
What camps did you train at?
Oh, gee, I've been to. I went out to AKA, been a part of their camp. Been to down to BTT with those crazies down there in Brazil. Then I've also went to Nogueira's. Been there. Been to ATT. Out with on the West Coast with Matt Hume and that great camp. And then Minnesota Martial Arts Academy right here in Minnesota when they were thriving, when it was Shirk, Lesnar, Lance, Volkman, all of us crazies, all tearing it up.
Nice. And then now, obviously, you retired. For people who don't know Brock retired, what, 3 years ago?
Yeah,
The
going
last
on
fight?
3 years now. Done.
3 years, yeah,
I
getting
just
old,
yell
man.
and scream.
So Brock's retired now, but me and you actually own a gym together out in St. Cloud, Minnesota, and you run a fight team out of there. And now you've transitioned more into just head instructor, obviously, and one of the owners of the school, but you're also head coach of the fight team. Just get a little bit about like your coaching background and how many guys you're with, like some of the things you've done as a coach.
Yeah, I started coaching years ago. I mean, decades ago. Just high school wrestling with the varsity here at Brainerd, and I always loved it. It was always great coaching, and then, but then I put all that aside and started competing myself, and had fairly successful career doing that. And then as the fire kind of started to burn out a little bit, I needed something to scratch that itch a little bit, and I started teaching and coaching at some of the schools that I trained at, and then it slowly evolved into a full-time gig. And now at Start, with yours and Tony's help, we put on one of the best schools. I would like to say probably the best MMA school in Minnesota. I'm the only coach that's coaching fighters in the UFC right now, so
Yeah.
I think we can put a stamp on that.
So he would be Maurice Green's head coach, the crochet boss. He just won a couple months ago in November in the UFC, and he's got his next fight coming up June 29th in Minneapolis. So Brock will be getting ready for that soon. We also got Bobby Lee. He fights for LFA. How many fights does he have for LFA? Like 6 or 8?
Yeah, I don't know offhand exactly what it was.
Yeah,
but yeah,
so,
whatever. Actually, we just sound like we're going to do it again. So
yeah, next week, the 26th, he's going to fight for LFA. It'll be a televised card on Access TV. So you guys will be getting ready for that in the next week and a half. And yeah, I mean, Brock's pretty humble. I mean, Brendo's got to meet Brock quite a bit. Like, he's probably one of the most humble guys I've met in MMA. How far do you live from the gym?
About an hour and a half out, about 60 miles away. I make the commute, but obviously I love the sport, and St. Cloud seemed to be the place that seemed to have the most prospects and the most talent that was untapped. So we ran in. That's kind of how that started in St. Cloud, and we ran into that crazy kid named Tony Martin, who seemed to be from there, and Adam McDonough, who's in the Bellator finals. Ran into just a lot of good athletes, and a lot of good people in St. Cloud. So that's kind of where I decided to make the mainstay and build the team there.
Yeah, and I've had the pleasure of traveling with Brock. Gone to Brazil. We've been all around the United States. We just did that road trip to Kansas, and
I'm one of the guys he slept with.
he is one of the guys. But I mean, I went out to Minnesota one weekend. We had a couple of amateurs fighting, and we drove like 4.5 hours one way for an amateur to fight. I think she lost real quick. And then we drove 4.5 hours home, and we did eat food. But I mean, those are the things that he does. I mean, I think that, we're trying to show this like other side of MMA that a lot of people don't see maybe on ESPN or Fox. And I think he kind of exemplifies that, where he's driving 9 hours in one day to corner one amateur fighter. He's not getting paid a dime. There's no gas money. There's nothing like that. He's doing it because he just loves the sport. And I feel like I embody kind of like what you do in a lot of my coaching. Like, I look at the sacrifices you make, especially, you got 3 kids. I feel like I'm kind of 10 years behind you in terms of in the grind, but I always use that line. I was like, hey, this is, Brock's not too good for this. I shouldn't be too good for it. You fought for a WEC title, one FC title, and here you are still helping guys cut weight, helping amateurs cut weight, 5-6 hours from their house. I don't really know if there's much that you don't do or roles that you don't take.
Yeah, I honestly, I kind of think a reverse of a lot of coaches too. I think the amateurs probably need me more than the pros do, just because they've never been there. Everything's kind of in shell shock, and they don't really know what to expect, and that's kind of where they need the guidance there more than the pros do. Pros have been there, done that. They've had an amateur career to figure out a lot of that stuff out. Obviously, record-wise, it's important for me to be there as far as helping them corner and helping them get ready mentally for their fights and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, the amateurs are the ones that don't know what the heck's going on. So I like, and I enjoy it. I mean, I like everybody on my team. If I don't like them, they probably aren't going to stick around. So I enjoy, helping them out and helping them chase their dreams, and it's part of it.
So when you were fighting amateur or in the regional scene, did you also have to, do these long drives? Are they
Yeah, I mean, when I
all the
fought,
same?
I never had an amateur career. I was before it was sanctioned by the commissions or anything like that. So I just was a pro right away. But I mean, I made a lot of these journeys. I mean, I was driving all over the Midwest fighting, and sometimes I went there even without a corner. Greg Nelson at the academy was always busy. I always tried to bring someone that knew something about what we were doing, but at the end of the day, most of the time I was on my own. And as I got more successful, then people were willing to come help a lot more, obviously. So I kind of go back to my own experiences. That's when I needed help before. So I like to think of it as I kind of help from ground one all the way up. I don't wait for you to be successful for me to go out and help you.
Excellent.
Did you have some other questions?
Yeah, I got some questions. So Brock, in your opinion, what does it take, and what is the role of a coach?
I'm having a hard time hearing you. What was that, Brendo?
What is, in your opinion, what is the role of a coach?
What's my role as a coach?
Yeah.
Like in MMA, like what is
in
the role?
MMA.
I mean, that's the thing. I put a lot on my shoulders. I put a lot on my plate as far as coach. Because this doesn't just not just showing guys moves and showing some techniques. It's really kind of being a mentor and helping these guys through more than just the fight game. A lot of it's mental, helping them get mentally ready for fights, and sometimes I got to change kind of the way they think too, unfortunately. And sometimes they think fighting's this and all glory and all that stuff. And really, fighting's a grind. And if you're in there for the glory, it's going to be a long time before you get there, and you're probably going to burn out before that ever happens. So a lot of being coaching is kind of some of the stuff that you don't think is as important sometimes. It's not showing up on fight day, telling the guy, hey, let's go, slap him on the butt and say, let's do this. Or, tell him, I think if you slip the jab and throw the right hand, I think you're going to knock this guy out, So a lot of it is just getting them confident in themselves and actually getting them to believe in you and trust in you. And I think that's what we got going pretty good with our team is like we don't have trust issues. Everyone knows we're there for a reason. I'm there for a reason. It's all one reason, just to get the win. Whatever we got to do to win, that's what we're going to do.
And you touched on something that Tyson said a lot about, and working on the mental game. Can you guys both talk about how you help out your fighters?
Sorry,
with that?
Brendo. I'm hearing some
Still nothing.
Stuff. I can't really hear you clear.
Is that better?
What's that?
Is that better?
Can you hear us now?
Okay, talk to me again, big dog.
Go ahead.
All right, what you got?
So something that you and Tyson have both talked about in the past is the mental aspect of fighting. Can you explain a little bit more about what you guys do to prepare your fighters for that?
Oh, sure. A lot of it is, done before even a fight camp starts. Like, I don't even really like the word fight camp. I think fight camp is a lazy way of saying I'm only going to train when I got to fight. So I think a lot of it starts before, when they walk in the gym. I think that's when coaching starts. It doesn't start when you get a fight. All the work should be done by the time you accept a fight. So, like, I feel like the biggest thing with me and my team is just getting everybody kind of on the same page. when we're sparring, making sure they're coachable when we're sparring, and whether we're rolling, whenever it is, just get them used to hearing my voice and understand my language. It's hard to corner somebody, and I've been there and I've done that where someone has asked me to corner them before, and I'm telling them to do a track stance. They don't know what the heck I'm talking about. My language is a lot of made up lingo. So if we're not training together, you're not going to understand a word I have to say.
Being not that knowledgeable, what is a track stance?
It's
Exactly.
pretty, it's
Exactly.
a Brock
Tyson,
term.
I think Tyson knows.
So
But
it's
no, it's when you go against the fence and you don't stay square, you kind of turn your hips, and it's almost like you're in a track stance, you're going to take off running. So it's getting low, staying on the fence, not allowing a guy to lock their hands and lift you up and send you for a ride.
But I think that he was talking about the mental side of it, and I think a lot of that stuff isn't done necessarily. Obviously, the trust comes with you're on the mat, you're talking to the guys, you're getting that lingo down, you're putting the time in, and you're putting in work with them. That comes the trust. So now when they're having like a rough day, like you've been around them enough that you know it, and that you can then Brock, how many times are you on the phone with fighters after class or staying extra after class because you can tell a fighter's having a rough day? Brock's the type of coach where he's helping people move out of their apartment. He's helping people resolve like disputes at home. He's that guy. Like, he wears so many hats, but he's, in my opinion, what exemplifies like what a good MMA coach could be or should be. He's not just there when the cameras are on. He's literally there when there's the opposite of that. It's like total darkness and nothing's going well. The fighter doesn't have money. He's getting evicted or whatever. Fight with the spouse. He's there to like pick up those pieces. He's there like, I would say most of your fighters, like if they are crying about something, they call you. Would you agree?
Yeah, I get a lot of, as I say, sometimes I think I'm more of a counselor than I'm a coach. We're a pretty tight crew, and I have helped many times guys move. I've helped my students roof their house. I've helped them haul sheetrock. I've actually Monday I think I'm gonna go help one of my guys saw some concrete to put in a drain for his house that he's remodeling in his basement. So yeah, I'm not afraid to help anybody out, and I've always the first one to step up and be willing to help as long as it doesn't hurt me. My parents told me a long time ago, if it doesn't cost you anything, it doesn't hurt anybody, don't be afraid to help somebody. And so it's kind of my way of giving back. These guys all entrust me with their career, with their lives, so to speak. And so if they need a little help doing something else, I think I can probably step up and give them
I agree with that 100% because I think sometimes this is a sport, but I think sometimes the reality of what we're doing or what they're doing now, me and you are in different roles. The reality of what the athletes are doing sometimes gets lost in the translation of like, oh, it's a sport. Like at the end of the day, like if your buddy was outside and he was about to go get in a fight, you're gonna have his back, And I think, or you're not a real friend, right? So in the MMA world, us having their back as a coach, in my opinion, and maybe Brock, you can agree or disagree, my opinion having their back is you're going to watch those videos, you're going to show up on practice day, and you're going to tell them, this is what I saw, here's what I think we should work on, and then you're going to coach them the next, however much time you have, it could be 2 weeks, it could be 2 months, and you're going to coach them to make sure that like you're doing everything you can to win that fight. And then when you go in there on fight night, yeah, that night the cameras might be bright and it might be cool, but everything you're saying, you've been saying for 8 weeks. So when you say track stance, they're jumping in the track stance right away. There's not that delay of like, oh, what is the track stance? Like you're on the same page as them. But to me, that's what being a good coach is that you have their back. And having their back in MMA as a coach means that you're going to do your prep work, you're going to do your homework, and you're going to show up prepared and not give BS answers that's generic for whoever happened to be fighting. And I think I work with a lot of different coaches, because of the management side, and you're one of the coaches that I know you watch the videos, I know you go to all the practices, and I know that you're like, all right, here's what our loose game plan is going to be, and here's what we're going to work on in practice. And then if they're not doing it, you're also one of those coaches that's going to stay after and do the extra credit.
So next question we have is, what sets a good coach apart from a bad one?
Oh, that's I think the easiest question is just being able to communicate and relate to a fighter and being able to guys be able to understand each other. And a lot of times things that don't even have to be said, you just kind of know it. And, you know, in fight day, like I said before, it's already over. It's already done. So it's that communication and that understanding of going into a fight and kind of understanding the game plan on both sides instead of just showing up and being wondering what we should do to win this fight. You both already know what we got to do to win the fight. A lot like, you know, we went into the Maurice Green fight. We all knew what Maurice had to do. Tyson and I were there both together, cornering. Tyson knew the plan. Maurice knew the plan. I knew the plan. Everybody knew the plan. And
I knew the plan.
so the plan was the plan, and that was the plan, and the plan worked. So
I feel like in my
yeah,
opinion,
bad coaches are the ones that show up on fight day, want to be the ones on camera, want to be the ones mic'd up, want to be the ones that everyone sees. Because obviously it's not about the fighter. I mean, it's not about the coach. It's about the fighter. And at the end of the day, if you put yourself in front of the fighter, you're in the wrong spot. You should get in the cage and try that on for size.
I agree. I think one of the big things that sets apart a good coach from a bad coach, I think sometimes people focus on like how talented the coach is or the things he might say in the corner that sound cool, but I think that can sometimes trick the announcers into thinking like, wow, this coach is amazing. Like, you hear what he said? It's like, yeah, he's cool on fight night, but like, does the fighter really believe in that coach? Like, does that fighter like know that the coach will, have his back all the time? Like, and I think that comes with the coach is truly passionate about the sport. They're passionate about the fighters. They're passionate about helping. They're putting in the time. They're showing up to practices on time. They're showing up prepared. They're not just, and I'll never mention names on here, but, sometimes what I've seen, I've been in a lot of different camps, is you could see like a coach, some coaches have like a one-size-fits-all practice where they're like, hey, do this, and then the kid's like, oh, hey, what do you think I should do in this fight? They're like, oh, I'll just do this. And it's like, they don't even know who the kid's fighting. So if you're not giving like specific information for that fighter who's preparing for X fighter, then I think the fighters start to lose a little bit of faith in you. They're like, okay, he's just giving me generic advice to say something that sounds good, but it's like, I'm not even fighting a guy that would work against. I think that's one of the good things, and I think it all comes back to the passion aspects. Like, if this isn't something, like, there's not money in coaching. Brock, you can attest to that. You're not getting rich out of coaching.
Right, we're all on that page.
We do not make enough money doing this, like, and it's not complaining, it's just the reality of what it is. Nobody's doing this to get rich. I think some coaches are doing it to try to be famous, and that kind of shows, and maybe it's good or bad, I don't know, but I think the greatest coaches are the ones that this is their passion. They're doing it because you would do this for an amateur. You would drive 4.5 hours one way to do an amateur where there's not even a camera in the building, but you do the same thing for a UFC fighter. And I think those are the coaches that like still have that drive after the amount of time that you've been doing it, that you still have that drive to say, hey, I'm about to go drive 5 hours to corner an amateur, and knowing that you're like footing the bill to do it, and you're not even upset about it. Like, I think that shows to the fighters. Like, so when that amateur in 4 or 5 years, if that person ends up getting to the UFC or whatever, a bigger league, like, there's so much trust that's built in those 4 or 5 years. A lot of the good fighters, they don't forget that. I think some fighters, maybe that's a whole nother conversation. They can jump ship, but I think it comes back to the passion. And like, I think, I'm always impressed with you, Brock, is just how passionate you are about the sport. When you've climbed the mountain to the highest, you did lose, but you did fight for a couple titles of the national promotions, and here you are still being hungry and helping out amateurs that aren't going to, at the end of the day, are they really helping you? Probably not, but it's like, that's what you like doing, because it's the right thing to do.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, just last night, Angel Pacheco is doing his pro debut tomorrow night, and we're all super excited about it. He's been like a team leader, even though he's an amateur. He's been one of our mainstays in the gym. And yesterday, he just changed his opponent, and they're like, well, I'm gonna get in there. I'm a southpaw, he's playing southpaw. So I'm like, well, I'll get in there. I'll be your southpaw, and not taking advantage of the situation. Obviously, I'm maybe 20 pounds bigger than Angel.
Yeah.
I think I'm only like 170 pounds, and but getting in there and helping out and letting him beat me up, so to speak, and just giving him a good look of what his opponent's going to do and stuff like that. I mean, that's some of the stuff that I really enjoy doing too, and is just being trying to be the guy that's the bad guy. Like I'm always trying to be our opponents a lot of times with the fighters too. Like I'm trying to do what that guy's trying to do, and in return, hopefully, if I'm doing my job right, I'm getting my butt kicked. So that's that's got a big part of it too. Just doing whatever I got to do to get the wins for these guys. To seeing those guys win, whether you're an amateur, whether it's your amateur debut, pro debut, or it's your UFC 15th fight, it doesn't matter. That win is priceless, and it's kind of what we're all striving for. And that brings me a lot of joy just to watch.
I think
everybody who I'm around succeed, and that's kind of what it's all about.
I think an easy way to kind of describe it, Brendo, is, and Brock, you can definitely you've seen these types, is the coaches that act different when the camera's around. That annoys me the most. Like when there's a coach, there's no camera around, they're lazy, they're on their phone, they're doing this. The minute the camera's there, all of a sudden they get up, they're in the shot, they're trying to like look at me. There's generally a correlation between those guys and the guys that aren't putting in work, in my opinion. But obviously there's exceptions, and I'm sure everybody could point to a case where no, this guy likes to be on camera, but he's actually a great coach, obviously. But I've just noticed in my, everybody knows the guy. Like, there's those guys that the camera comes in, all of a sudden they're super coach, the camera leaves, then they sit back down. Like, the type, Brock.
Yeah, those guys always bother me. And the problem is a lot of the guys know it too. And but those ones don't last. They don't last. I've known quite a few coaches like that in my day, and those are not the ones that I attract to. Those are not the ones that I went back to. There was many camps that I went to, big camps that I went to one time, and I'm like, it's not a fit. I don't do smoke. I want real. I mean, that's one of the biggest things why I think I fell in love with Matt Hume, is he didn't give a crap what you said. He just said, this is the way it is. And you just listened or you got out. And it was a beautiful thing, because I love to shut up and work. So I learned a lot from him, just from a coaching aspect, and how to, just do the thing and don't worry about what people think, because this is the way it's going to be. And, at the end of the day, that's what you need, I think.
Was there a specific point where you found that passion for coaching, or did it just happen over time?
I think it's always been there, because, like I said, when I coached wrestling, I loved it. There was nothing more than watching a kid win a state title, and being a part of that. And I always like helping people, and it brings me greater joy, truly, to be a part of someone else's success, and maybe even my own success. I mean, I love winning more than anything, but if I can help somebody win, then I'm winning too. So now two people are happy, and it's two birds, one stone, and bam, it's a good day.
I dig it. Now, Brock, I know you have a hard stop because you're promoting a show tomorrow night, but I think we had some questions that some people that wanted to ask you.
What do you guys got? What do you got?
Yeah. All right, so we got some fan questions here. First one, does the coach make the fighter, or does the fighter make the coach?
Ooh, that's a solid question. Obviously it's both. That's an easy way out. But you got to have a good student, and the coach has got to be able to communicate with a bunch of different kind of personalities. And so to answer the question it definitely takes both. But I do believe a good coach can make an okay fighter great. But at the same time, I've had hundreds of different students come into the school, whether it be jiu-jitsu or MMA or kickboxing, and a lot of them changed my life too. So I think it's a combo, definitely a combo.
Excellent. Next question is, what is the biggest problem in MMA coaching now?
The biggest problem in MMA coaching, with coaches in general, probably the fact that fighters sometimes lack a little loyalty. I think sometimes they're a little quick to jump ship. I'm lucky enough not to have that problem too much, because Minnesota doesn't have the big camps or anything like that. The biggest problem I think that I have with coaching is just having the numbers. There are enough numbers to make a solid team. So I think the problem with coaching isn't so much coaching as it is the way MMA has kind of went in the last 5 years, just more onto the social media stuff. A lot of fighters think their fight is basically won and lost on social media, and I think social media hurts coaching a little bit. As weird as that might sound, um, because one, everybody's seeing the newest thing all the time, constantly, and they wanna do that when really you should be sitting down working on your jab, you know, or your 3 punch combo, not the highlight reel kind of stuff. So I think that kind of a combo between the fighters and the internet and social media, everybody looking for an instant highlight kind of a deal. I think that's my opinion, and it can go either way.
Yeah, I think you see.
Coaches can, yeah.
I think you see. With the you brought up an interesting point with the social media is you see these young fighters and they have fan pages before they even had an amateur fight, and I look at those people, I'm like, there's a big correlation to those fighters and fighters that like don't ever turn pro. Like, you know, they got all their ducks in a row, they get everything, they get their hairs braided, they get their fan page, they get their walkout shirts, they got all that stuff, but they still haven't even had a fight. I'm like, all right, like, you're putting the cart before the horse a little bit here, you're focusing on the wrong things. Obviously there's exceptions, but I think, you know, you touched upon the part with social media making coaching hard, Brock, and I do agree with that, because I think social media allows the masses to reach out to these fighters. Obviously, there can be trolling and it can be bad, but the other part of that is you're going to have every single person reaching out to these people telling them, oh, this coach would be better for you, or, oh, you don't have to work on that. You know, so they have all these yes men around them telling them how great they are, and you're the guy that's supposed to be the bearer of bad news and be like, listen, no, you need to get back in the gym and work on your jab. Like, I'm not impressed. And so then you're the one point, you're the pebble in the shoe almost. Like, everything else in their life is great. Everybody's telling how great they are. And you're that one dickhead telling them, like, no, you need to get in the gym and work harder, because I need you at, you know, you're at 8, I need you at a 9. And so I think sometimes that, you know, that can help lead to, oh, well, I'll go someplace over here because that, you know, that guy's not going to tell me what to do.
Yeah, and I mean, all of them, it's kind of like my ninth grade girlfriend. She just wanted to feel all the good stuff, but never wanted to do any of the bad things, you know?
Yeah.
And a lot of times as fighters, they hear everything all good, and I'm going to go where all the good stuff is, when really, I mean, we all know it's the grind that makes the fighter, not the highlight reel.
Excellent. Do you think that a coach should have experience as a fighter?
You know, I don't think so. I don't think that's a necessary must, but they should have experience in some sort of combat sports, in my opinion. I don't think you can relate to a fighter at all about almost any part of it if you've never actually done something in combat sports, whether it be jiu-jitsu, kickboxing, boxing, whatever that might be, judo. I think it helps immensely being a fighter, because I can relate to almost every aspect of it. I mean, I had 52 professional fights. So in there somewhere, I've ran into something that they're going through. You know, and then trying to relate to the weight cut. A lot of coaches don't understand it, and they're like, oh, they're done. It's, you know, so there's a lot of fighting that isn't just throwing the punches and getting submissions. You know, there's a lot more to it, and the mental side of it. You go away from your family, you know, whatever it is. There's a lot more to it. I think being a fighter and have fought, I think it does help understand kind of what they're going through and kind of relate, and then be able to communicate a little bit better with them and try to help them get past that, some of those obstacles.
I agree. I think, in my experience, I don't think you have to have fought to be a coach. I do think it helps, but I do notice a correlation between the coaches who have fought and the coaches who don't ruin the vibe. You know, like the coaches on Fight Week, we've all been there. That one coach on Fight Week that makes it about him or herself, or that doesn't understand the etiquette during a weight cut of not ruining the vibe or coming in and messing it up by being, you know, all anxious when we're trying to be like kind of, you know, mellow and chill. Everything's good, even though it's not good. And that one coach that just doesn't get the etiquette on it, and then they kind of like, you know, drop the grenade in the middle of that vibe, and then all of a sudden, like, everything's kind of chaotic, and then you have the fighter being like, hey, get that guy away from me, and then there's a little bit of dissension. I notice whenever I have to deal with people like that, it's generally people who didn't fight. But I don't think, just like wrestling, Brock, like you can say, some of the best wrestling coaches, weren't the best wrestlers, but they did wrestle. You know,
Right. Yep.
So I
agree.
think I don't think you had to necessarily be like a UFC world champ. You know, Brock obviously has crazy credentials as a fighter, which helps him. But I don't think like whether you fight for a world title or just fought in the UFC or just fought locally. Like I think you still have that edge. You understand like you've been through it. So now when you talk to your fighter, you can say like, listen, I know what you're going through. Like, and the reality is you do. Especially you. Like if someone's fighting for a world title fight, I couldn't tell him what's going on. Like I haven't done it. You know. But I think I do think there's a line, and fighters, coaches that didn't fight, should kind of understand their place a little bit in the fact that, listen, don't start talking about the mental side of fighting and the nerves and stuff like that, because you don't really get it, and you can pretend like you get it. Like my wife's had 2 kids, she's about to have a third. I can, I've been through birth twice, but I didn't have a kid, so. It'd be like me being like, oh, just breathe, we'll get through this. It's like, she just wants to punch me, So I think it's kind of like that. It's like, yeah, they're getting more experience, but there's just certain things that they'll never fully understand, and that could trigger some fighters that are going to be like, listen, like, don't blow smoke up my butt because I know you don't know what I'm going through right now. That's just my take on it, but.
Yeah, I mean, we're kind of on the same page with all that, too. So, yeah, I'm with you.
I like it.
Excellent. ONE FC has become somewhat bigger in the last couple of years. You fought for ONE FC. What was that like?
It's great. I mean, that was one of my favorite organizations to fight for. The fans are amazing, and the way they treat their fighters was top notch. And you got Rich Franklin over there and Matt Hume over there, and their whole team is just great, because they're one of them that can relate. They have fought, they understand kind of what a fighter goes through, and they're on your side. They make you feel like you're on your side. Maybe they're not, but they definitely make you feel like they're on your side. And just with the weight cut stuff and all the stuff, they're doing all the right things to make you feel like they're definitely fighter friendly and they're on your side. And then, I mean, just the fans over there are just the best. Amazing. I had the best time over there. They allow you to intermingle with the crowd. They invite them to do a meet and greet at weigh-ins, and it's unbelievable. And they've always been a big deal. I mean, over there, it's always been huge. I mean, they have bigger crowds than UFC when I was fighting over there, and it's just now, fighting in general is getting bigger. So. Us silly Americans are just starting to pay attention to them. But over there, they were huge back then, and it's just amazing. Yeah.
Excellent. And last question that I have for you is, what is your most memorable coaching experience?
My most memorable coaching experience, I've had a lot of them. But probably the first time walking down the UFC aisle behind the fighter, because whether you're fighting or whether you're coaching, it's still the pinnacle. The UFC is still the pinnacle spot. So, like, thinking, holy cow, this kid came in and had no idea what he was doing. He came in and he was getting tapped out by a 125-pounder. Now he's walking into the UFC cage after 5 years of training, and he's at the pinnacle of the sport, and that was a good feeling. That was a good feeling.
He's referring to
and coaching a state champion at the state wrestling tournament. Those two are kind of like the two pinnacle points of coaching. Now, obviously, I don't coach wrestling anymore, but still, that was like my first time being a successful coach. And then the fight career took off for that. But those two spots, I mean, being there, I mean, there's a lot of them. I mean, just anytime any guy wins, I get the best feeling in the world, whether it's guys in the UFC, whether it's guys at the amateur shows. Any other time when we're winning, that's awesome.
And who was the UFC fighter that first time?
Tony Martin.
Tony Martin.
It was less than 5 years, wasn't it?
Tony who?
Tony Martin.
Yeah.
Now, wasn't it less? It wasn't less than 5 years from his first day on the mat to when he made his UFC debut.
Yeah, I think so. He was a bit of a freak.
And now he's ranked number 15 at welterweight, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
He's doing well.
Yeah, he's just an athlete. You know, he's just
Yeah.
a 4-fight win streak now. Yeah, 4-fight win streak.
Yep.
But I think that's all the time you got, Brock. But we really appreciate you joining us. You look awesome. I like the hat. Good luck at your show tomorrow night. Thanks for joining us. Any parting words? You know, Brendo misses you.
I do.
I
miss
know.
you.
I'm going to get out down there one of these days and come over and hang out with you guys and hopefully sleep with you guys.
It's not that far of a drive.
Only if we get bunk beds. We're going to have to rent a house and we're going to have to get bunk beds.
I love that. I love bunk beds are fun.
Yeah. We put them in your house and we just have a sleepover.
We can do it, bro.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
I think it'd be great.
We had to get
could,
Brendo to come
do
out
stuff.
to Minnesota for Maurice's fight again.
Yeah. Then
Do
we
that.
can put bunk beds in the gym.
I like it. Let's
Nice.
do it. But no, Brock, we appreciate you dialing in. I know you
All
got to
right.
get ready for weigh-ins here. But have a good one. Good luck on the show tomorrow night.
Thanks, Brock. Have fun out there.
All right. Thank you, guys. See you soon.
Well, that went pretty good considering he's bad with technology. I know he was
I think
a little bit.
he ran it just fine.
Brock, you see like up his nose the whole time, but that's Brock. I mean, in a nutshell, I think you guys got vintage Brock. He's not a guy that's gonna, do his hair and makeup before a thing like this. He's doing this just to be nice to us, and he's in the middle of setting up the cage for weigh-ins, and he'll never say no to you.
Regardless of makeup, he's still beautiful to me.
He is beautiful. But no, I mean, I think that went well, and I'm excited about what we got coming up. So this Friday is Combat Zone, the 19th.
April 19th.
Is it the
At the
Hyatt
do-
or the
it's at the
Doubletree? I think you
Doubletree.
changing the name. The
It's at
Doubletree?
the Doubletree.
Center, New Hampshire, the Doubletree. czmma.com for tickets. Some good fights there. Louis Karapi will now be on the card. We just signed that a couple days ago.
Oh, boy.
There we go. So I'll be there. I'm excited, man. We got this, and then we're working on our guest for next show. We'll be announcing that soon. We appreciate all the support. We've gotten a lot of feedback from you all, like whether it be text messages, emails, direct messages, stuff like that, of things you kind of want to see, things that you like, things that you think we could do better. But we welcome that stuff. We're trying to get better. Obviously, I'm no disc jockey yet, but I'm really having fun with this. I think.
I'm having a good time.
Yeah, I think it's, and we have a lot of guests raising their hands that say they want to come on. We're just trying to schedule it and figure out the logistics, and we're trying to go at a good tempo to keep this momentum going. But, we really appreciate everything, and we're excited about the next few episodes because I think we get some big guests lined up.
Should be a good time.
All right. Thanks, guys. Oh, I said thanks, guys, again.